Okay, so this is station number 3. We're going to actually do an absolute value inequality here. Okay, I'm going to show you an example problem, show you how to get the answer, and then I want you guys to do a practice problem as a group, and then you can turn the video back on when that practice problem, when you have an answer to it, and see if your answer is actually correct. Okay, so this is actually going to be your problem that we're going to work right now. It's going to be 1 minus 3 times the absolute value of 6a minus 6 is going to be less than negative 89. Now, you guys can write this down, you can follow along, it's up to you whether you take notes on this or not, okay? But I do want you to write down the example problem that you do, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I want to see, can I simplify the left or right hand side before I actually start doing any work? And there's really nothing I can do. I cannot do 1 minus 3 because this 3 right here is being multiplied with my absolute value, so I can't do 1 minus 3 and say it's negative 2 in front. That doesn't work. I have 1 of something, and I'm going to take away of whatever 3 of this guy, this whole thing is, so that doesn't work. So I'm going to go ahead and do my order of operations backwards. So again, the 3 is being multiplied technically by my absolute value, so I can't undo my multiplication until I've undone this adding of 1. So let's go ahead and subtract 1 from both sides. Again, be very careful where you're subtracting from. Make sure it's on both sides and not twice on one side. Okay, that's going to make this guy become 0 and go away. So I'm going to get negative 3 absolute value of 6a minus 6 is less than, should be negative 90. Okay, now what I want to do is say, okay, the negative 3 is being multiplied by my absolute value, so I want to go ahead and divide everything by negative 3. Okay, negative 3 divided by negative 3, that becomes a fancy 1. So I get my absolute value of 6a minus 6. Okay, let's actually make that look like an absolute value bar. Is going to be something to 30. Okay, hopefully you were thinking in your head that it needs to be greater than 30 now because I'm divided by a negative number on both sides. I have to flip my inequality sign. Okay, so that was 2 steps in order to get my absolute value alone. My absolute value is greater than a positive number, which means I can solve this. It's not one of my special cases. So let's go ahead and slide this down just a little bit, and let's see if we can work on solving this. I need to set up my 2 inequalities that I have to solve. So I need to set up 6a minus 6 is greater than 30. And I also need to set up my second one, which is going to be 6a minus 6 is less than negative 30. We need to remember with the inequalities, we flip the sign, negate. Flip and negate. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to solve the first one all the way through, and then we'll solve the second one all the way through. Okay, there's nothing that I can do forwards in order of operations to simplify the left or right, so all I want to do is go ahead and start working backwards in my order of operations to get that a alone. So let's go ahead and add 6 to both sides. That way I get rid of the 6 and it becomes a little bit easier to work with. 6a is greater than 30. Nope. Shouldn't talk and write at the same time. Should be greater than 36. Okay, and now when I'm going to go ahead and divide by 6, I actually won't get any fractions in my problem. So that's good. That's the goal. So here again, 6 is being multiplied by a, so if I make that into a fancy 1, divide both sides by 6, I end up with a is greater than 6, and that should be one of my answers that works. Okay, any number greater than 6 put in the original problem should work out. Okay, let's look at the second inequality now. Again, can't simplify left or right at all, so I'm going to start doing my order of operations backwards. How about I add 6 to both sides, and I get 6a is less than negative 24. Okay, and then again, 6 is being multiplied by a, so I divide both sides by a, fancy 1, divide this by 6. I'm sorry, I divide by 6. And I get A is less than negative 4. Okay, so that should be the other answer to this particular problem. Now, there's always multiple steps that we have to do with these problems. So the first thing that the directions normally say is solve, and then it normally says graph, because I want to get a good idea of how many numbers are there really greater than 6 that work. How many numbers are there really that are less than negative 4 that work? So what I want to do is I'm going to slide this up just a little bit here, and I'm going to create a quick number line, okay? And it just needs to include down to negative 4 and up to 6. So how about we just count by 2s? I think that'll be easy enough, and then everyone can look at my number line and see exactly what I'm looking at, okay? Now when I look at this, let's just start with A is bigger than 6. Okay, A is greater than 6. It can't be equal to 6, but it has to be greater than 6. So that's going to be an open circle, okay, and the variable's on the left-hand side, so it tells me exactly what way my arrow has to go, but in case we don't remember that or we want to check, 7, 8, 9, 10, those are numbers that are greater than 6, so I need to shade in this direction, okay, to the right. Let's look at the other inequality that we have. A has to be less than negative 4. Okay, it can't equal negative 4 because negative 4 plugged in won't actually work in our problem, but it can approach negative 4. It could be like negative 4.1. Okay, that's less than negative 4. And again, our variable's on the left-hand side, so our arrow tells us which direction to go. Okay, there's my nice little arrow. And I'm looking for negative 5, negative 6, all those numbers that way. So this actually ends up being an OR compound inequality. Okay, I can pick values on this side on the right that will make it true, or I could pick values on this side, the left, that will also make it true. So the final answer that you should have on your paper here is going to be what I'm circling in black. A is greater than 6. A is less than negative 4, okay, because the problem told us to solve, so I had to solve and say what A really is, and then this beautiful little number line is the other part because it says graph your solution. So those are the 3 things that would get you full credit given that they're correct, okay? Now, if you have any questions, pause it, rewind it, ask questions of your teammates, your group mates or that. What I'm going to do is give you your problem that I want you to work as a group, okay? So let's just scroll up here. Here is your group problem. Okay, and I want you guys to solve this problem as a group, and then I want you to restart the video and actually check your answers. See if you guys got it right. I'm sure you will, but practice will make perfect. So here is what our problem looks like. You have 7 plus 4 times the absolute value of something is greater than or equal to 87. Okay? So there's your problem. Go ahead and pause it and work out that problem. Okay, so now that you guys have had a chance to work out the problem, once you've undone all the stuff that's bothering your absolute value, set up your 2 inequalities, this is what your final answer should look like. You should have gotten that n is greater than or equal to 11, and n is less than or equal to negative 9. Okay, I could actually put the little word or in between because on my number line, it's going to be going opposite directions, okay? And your number line should look something like this. I'm just going to make it really brief, okay? 0, negative 9, and 11, okay? So it's not very specific. And it's going to be a closed circle at both. And then n has to be bigger than 11 to the right, and n has to be less than negative 9 to the left. Okay, so that's what your answer right here should look like. That would be the final answer for this particular problem. Now, if you have any questions, if you didn't get that answer, again, stop the video, look to your group mates. If they can't answer your questions, call me over and I will help you with this. And you're all done.